Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. This is very exciting.
Yeah, so Chris Swail, for those of you who don't know her, she's a life and health coach. She has many, many certifications. And Chris, why don't you just jump right in and introduce yourself and tell us all about your many skills and talents?
Sure. Well, I am Chris, the girl, and I am a life and health coach. I am also trained as a functional nutrition counselor and a sleep and stress recovery coach. I am trained and certified as a personal trainer, a group fitness trainer, and I used to be a bar instructor. A lot of these things I became very interested in because, I've always been very active in my life, but when I found problems that I needed to fix and started getting the help, I then became so obsessed with the changes I've seen. So I thought I got to get trained and help other people too.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone watching or listening will notice that we do have the word perimenopause in the title.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really comes down to a big part of why you started your business. So tell us about what you went through that resulted in you getting all these certifications and wanting to help women in the way that you do.
Yeah, so this is the newest phase, and because I am a mom with 3 kids, and right now they're 8, 10, and 12. So not babies, but they were quite. They were younger when I started going into perimenopause, and I had no idea what was happening because I was 41, 42, and it was not on my radar. And, I was just getting out of the weeds of baby and toddler stuff and thinking, this is like the great years. I'm going to be able to just enjoy my kids and everything for a bit. But my body just kept getting hit with all these different symptoms. And it took a while because I think when we think menopause, we think hot flashes, missed periods, right? But there are a host of other indications. And anyways, I've learned along the way that some of these things can show up for several years before you see those typical symptoms. And just like I said, it wasn't on my radar. So I was just getting hit by, insomnia, by joint pain, by back pain, and acne, and all these things. I'm like, what is going on? Until I finally started getting the hot flashes and went to my doctor and found out I was in perimenopause.
Were you in a phase for a while there where you were worrying that it was something bigger, more like maybe neurological disease?
Yeah.
Did you go through a phase of full on fear that this was like an actual forever fatal illness?
100%. I went to several different specialists. I saw rheumatologists and bounced around a lot to a lot of the different autoimmune doctors and specialists. Actually, it's not been ruled out, I guess, 100%, although I think I'm sort of ruling it out because, or at least I may have it, but that's not the reason for a lot of the things that have been happening in the last 3 years, I guess. And because I didn't fit in any box. And that's why one specialist or doctor would recommend me to another one and then to another one and to another one because nobody could diagnose me. And I guess it wasn't really on any of their radars either that this 41-year-old woman is experiencing quite severe perimenopause symptoms.
Right. And then yesterday, was it yesterday? It feels like it's been forever.
I know.
Your workshop.
Yeah, I know. It feels like it was so long ago. A lot of life has been lived. These 24 hours have been packed. But, it was yesterday. I held my first women's health perimenopause webinar or workshop. And I'm hoping to do a bunch more of them because I think this is a topic. Honestly, I think this topic should be taught in the schools. When we know more about our bodies, how they function, how they're going to function, or the transitions they're going to be going through, right. Then we have more power and we can advocate for our own health. And, this perimenopause, I will say that actually since I've been going through my journey, particularly in the last, I'd say 6 to 12 months, now it's becoming mainstream. And every time I see it, I'm like, yeah, when I see somebody post something about menopause. And but before that, there was a real stigma to it. And there's a real like there's just a real culture around not talking about it, or that it's this horrible thing when it's not. Like it's a big thing and it can be a bit traumatic, especially when, we don't know where to turn. Our concerns get dismissed a lot. And so we just don't feel the support, and then we feel a lot of shame about it. But like this is a natural process that 50% of the world's population goes through. So, it needs to be a conversation, and we need the knowledge around it so it doesn't feel scary.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm excited to have you here on the podcast for many reasons, and of course, hearing your business journey, which we're going to dive into more here in a minute, but also just because most of the women in this community are 40 plus, and so I really want to just make sure that they know that you're available as a resource. You have another free workshop coming up on November 28th, so you can go to a littlebitbetter.ca to learn more about that. And yeah, and then of course we're going to talk about your business stuff too. But know that Chris is very versed in all this fun stuff that happens to the changing female body, and she has all the training as well. So, do you want to actually take us back to when you were a little girl, like maybe even as a teenager, and just kind of who you were? Did you see yourself being an entrepreneur? Did you see yourself serving women? Like, did you get a bit of a glimpse of your future at that age, or what were you thinking you were going to be when you grew up?
Oh, I love this question. I've never been asked that before. You know what? I think, to be truthful, I didn't really know what an entrepreneur was, but I think that is what was always in my heart. And I think I've always known that that's who I am. So when I also, I should let everyone know, which might explain all my certifications and my energy, is that I have ADHD, but I only found that out when I was, I think, also 42. It was a big year for me. And so.
But you said I think we talked about this, and you said you weren't shocked by that information.
No, not at all. And it's typical. Apparently it's like it is the number one age group is late 30s, early 40-year-old women are getting diagnosed because they're taking their children to get diagnosed. And this exactly is what happened to me, that as I was going through the process with my son, I was like, reading all the questions, and it can show up very differently in females. And so but a lot of females do have ADHD. I'm not saying you have to have it to be an entrepreneur, female entrepreneurs. And you certainly don't need to have it, of course. But I think that it is, and probably males do too, actually, who are entrepreneurs. But it's just because we're often very creative and we think fast and we have these ideas. And so I was always like that. I always saw things when I was younger, and I was like, oh, but what if we did it this way? And then another part of my personality was that I always knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how. And I give to charities a lot, but that was something that I always did, even when I had no money. I think one of the first things I did when I was 18 is I sponsored a child, and I have kept that up. I still sponsor children, and I've my children are not sponsored anymore because they've grown past the age of sponsorship. And so I've always wanted to help. And so I think that is part of my personality. And then my self-development part of my personality, it all just, and my physical health journey, like all of this just melded together. And here I am now doing what I do.
Well, one thing I learned about you yesterday that I didn't know, and it makes total sense, is that you were a high-level gymnast.
Oh.
You were like a very high-level athlete for a period of time in your life. And I do know that that's a commonality with like high-performance entrepreneurs, is that they have that history of knowing how to really bust their ass and see a goal they want to achieve and get there. And I can't say that I have that. I played basketball, but I sat on the bench more than anything. But yeah, I think for you, when I found that out about you, it kind of helped me kind of understand you a little bit. But so tell us about the gymnastics years of your life. When did you start doing that?
Yeah, actually, that is a kind of an interesting story, and I think it's one that I'm pretty proud of. Probably one of my first times I acknowledged that I was proud of what I had worked hard to achieve. So I actually started gymnastics quite late. I think I was 10, and usually when you're going to go into competitive, especially gymnastics, you need to have identified when you're 6 or 7. But I was a very athletic kid, and I just I fell in love with gymnastics. And I think it was actually because of the Olympics. I think it was an Olympic year. So I signed up for gymnastics, and I worked really hard, and I made it to the pre-competitive group. But it's still pretty casual, I mean, they do put people there to train to get them ready for competitive, but I was one of the older girls because there were younger girls that they were really, keeping their eye on. But I guess I wanted it really badly. So I was working really, really hard, and I was really coachable, and I was listening to what they said. And I didn't whine when they said do extra handstands or, splits or whatever. And so I spoke with them, and we decided, okay, let's try this out. You're a little old to be starting, because by that point, I guess I was 11. And but we did it, and I loved it, and I worked really hard, and we were in the gym. And I had great coaches. Honestly, they were the best. Shout out to Kim and Frank. And but they were so good at whole health too. And so we didn't work as long hours as some of the other gymnasts, but when we were in there, we knew we were there to work. And so we just concentrated on what we had to do. They always made sure that we were eating healthy too. Or in eating in general. Nobody was allowed to be starving or, doing unhealthy things with their bodies. And yeah, so it was just it was a really nurturing environment, despite the fact that it was really competitive. And I feel like it was just really well suited for my personality, and because I really wanted it. My parents didn't put me in it because it was their dream, which happens a lot, in sports. That I saw it. It was my goal that I wanted to get to this level. And yeah, I ended up being a national level athlete in power tumbling. So that was pretty cool.
What is that one? Describe what that is.
So power tumbling, I know it's kind of this weird one nobody knows about. I've been out of it for a while, so I don't know if this is still the case, but I imagine it probably is. Trampoline and power tumbling always had their competitions together. So the gymnastics that everybody knows about is called artistic, and that's the bars, floor, vault, beam, that kind of gymnastics, which I did do as well at a provincial level. But power tumbling is it's a bit of a bouncier floor, and it's about the length of 2 tractor trailers, end to end. And you just run, and then you do eight moves down the track, and they land. No music, no dance. It's just power tumbling. So it's big moves, and
so you become a wheel and you spin.
Yeah. I mean, you with a forward trajectory, so you're not in one spot. But yeah, I mean, look it up afterwards. It's pretty cool.
I'm going to. That's neat. I didn't know that was your sport. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. And so that's what I did, and that's what I did when I got to compete nationally, which was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
I don't know why I'm forgetting, just blanking out, but I think in my division I came 5th in Canada, and that was my claim to fame. And I'm and retire. But it was too bad, because the year we were hoping that it could get into the Olympics, and it still isn't, obviously, or else people might know about it. We were excited when trampoline got in and hoping we could too, but unfortunately it didn't happen. But yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's really good.
Yeah.
So you, I think it sounds like you were coached by some pretty impressive coaches, and you learned how to be coachable, and you learned what a great coach is from experiencing it firsthand. So what are some of the coaching skills and the positive aspects of your childhood coaching experience? What are some of those ones that you brought into your work as a coach?
Oh, I love this question. And you know what? You're thank you, because you helped me connect the dots. I actually didn't, I always knew how much my coaches meant to me, but I actually didn't really connect the dots that they were my mentor coaches into what I do. And so actually that's a really cool realization. So thank you for that. So, I think what I took from them and their style is that, we knew when to work, but we also didn't take ourselves too seriously. So we had a lot of fun. And we made mistakes, and we talked, if I did something and goofed up, sometimes I saw other coaches on the floor when we were competing, and some of them I remember just being oh my gosh, so thankful I wasn't at those clubs, because they just seemed so mean to the athletes if they fell on or bobbled the trick or whatever. And I think, my coaches sometimes would be what'd you do that for? But it was in jest, they're do it better. I think I remember one big competition, I was so nervous. I think it might've been that my nationals competition, and you have a preliminary line that everybody has to do. And I did it like, man, like so. And, you know, my coach, I think Frank, is like, okay, head case, now that we got that out of your system, he's like, ready for line 2, you know, and we just like, you know, so we acknowledged, you know, wasn't my best run, but it's not the end of the world. Like, let's focus forward. And so I think that I try to take a lot of that is like never take myself too seriously. Obviously I take my clients seriously, but I'm not going to reprimand them because I want the journey to be good and fun for them in as much as it can be fun. I mean, sometimes things are deep and tricky and hard, but you know, we try not to make light of things, but to keep things light where they can be light. And I think that just really helps people feel, I guess, supported and takes a bit of pressure off, I hope. Yeah, and I forgot. I thought of something else, and I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Okay,
But,
well, you can wait for it to come back to you. I have another question that might trigger that. About your podcast. So you have a podcast called A Little Bit Better, and I love the episode about kindness. You recorded it, I think, right before Christmas, so it was kind of a bit of a like preparing for the New Year episode. And I'm just curious to know where, like, it sounds like your coaches were firm yet kind when you were in gymnastics. What other role models have you had in your life that you feel have really done a great job of teaching you how to be a great coach and even to be a great coach to yourself as someone who's kind to yourself and others? Where did you see that growing up?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, the obvious is, you know, my mother, and I'd say both my grandmothers as well. You know, they have a lot of those elements too, and they're all very giving people, and but also I would say never took themselves too seriously either. I just like, you know, keep things moving along, and so I think that if something big happened too, there wasn't a mass panic about it and like, this is the end of the world, even when it could have felt like the end of the world. I think there was a lot of, okay, well, what do we do then? What do we do? And all three of those women, my mom and my two grandmothers, I would say have a lot of that. It was just like, okay, well, what needs to be done? Yeah. And so I think that is also how I am too. I mean, like we will like, obviously it's healthy to talk about things, but you don't want to stay talking about things in a circle where you're not coming out of it. So I think that we don't, like when I'm coaching and stuff, we don't need to just rehash things that don't work. We can be like, okay, what didn't work? Why? Okay, so let's figure out what we can do next, you know? And I think that I saw that in the women in my family. So I'd say that's a definite, those would be the definite things that I took out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
From those people, yeah.
Such a blessing to have people like that kind of mold us and shape us without even realizing it sometimes. And especially the role you're in now, working with women, it's cool to hear that you had those strong yet kind women that showed you how to be like that.
Yeah, well, my mom too, I should add, she was a nurse and a director of nursing as well. And I remember I used to work when I was a teenager. I was a landscaper at the seniors home that she was working at, and in the summers, that was one of my summer jobs. And so I did get to see her a little bit. And I will say, at Christmas in particular as well, there's like every day leading up, there'd be one or more little packages on our door. Or my mom would come home, but I'd come home from school and there they were outside my door, because my mom was so kind, and she, you know, she had so much empathy too around the residents in the home. And so she treated them all like they were her mother, you know, and I didn't know it broke her heart for the residents who didn't have as many visitors, but she always spoke to them like they could hear, even if she wasn't sure they could, you know, and like they were, you know, there and present, and she just never spoke down to them, and she didn't ignore them when she was in the room. She wasn't too busy just like doing my thing. Like she'd come in, hi Ethel, looking great, you know, and it just like, I just think that was really appreciated by her. And that's why I wasn't surprised when she get all these little gifts of appreciation, would show up. And so I think, like, you know, she showed me that she was a leader and a caretaker, and could do that with a ton of kindness and empathy.
That's really awesome. Okay, so when did the light bulb, some people say go off, I like to say turn on. When did the light bulb turn on for you? Meaning, when did you say, I got to take all this horrible shit I've been through, like health wise, and like all the realizations I've had, I need to get certifications. Like, at what point were you like, this is a business, I need to do this as a business? Like, was there a day? Do you remember it being like an aha moment? What happened that made you take?
Yeah. Well, I mean, truthfully, my business was built first before the perimenopause, like that part of it. That just became something that I was like, oh, I have an audience, I have the means, and this I think is information that is critical. Um, but I actually, just to rewind a bit, like the reason I started my initial business, which was life coaching, was for that reason, was the ahas, where I was just feeling really like floating, and I just felt like I was spinning my wheels and life was passing me by and I was getting really panicky. And so I started being like a recipient of life coaching. And then I just loved the mindset stuff. And I just felt like I was able to forgive myself and release and then make plans to take action, to do what I wanted to do. And as I was doing these things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to share this with everybody else. So then I went and got trained as a life coach. And I guess because of my physical, I've always been like into like health and especially physical and nutrition as well. Like that I saw, and I just feel like mind and body are so connected that I feel like it's hard to have whole health, to be fully healthy, if one area of either your mental health or your physical health is suffering or is neglected. And so it came out of a need for me that way. And then as you know, so I've been working as a life coach predominantly. But what I noticed was that as I'm coaching women, a lot of times these little health things would come in, right? And whether it was, oh, like I'm not happy in my skin, or I'm gaining weight and I don't know what's going on. I'm not happy. I'm anxious. I don't know why. All these things. And I saw even more so, and I was so grateful that I had chosen to get a duo certification in both life and health coaching, because I just really in practice saw how interconnected they are. And then when I started having my own symptoms shortly afterwards of perimenopause, I kind of was like, it just like hit me, and I was like, you know what, screw this. Like, why aren't we having these conversations? It's just like when you feel like, what the hell, when you have a baby and other people have had babies before you and they didn't tell you what it was actually like to go through labor and the after, and how like traumatizing that can be, And I was like, why is nobody having these conversations? And I just kind of went, oh, I could have these conversations. How about I do it? So, and I'm not a doctor. So like I always tell people, definitely speak to your doctor about this stuff. But what I can do is help you advocate and help you learn so that you can understand what's going on, so that you can make these choices. But, and you if you don't know like what's happening to you, then, a lot of times we dismiss, oh, I'm just tired because the kids, or like a lot of energy, or because I'm getting older. And, even things like incontinence is one of the symptoms of perimenopause. And a lot of people think, oh, well, it's because I've had a couple of kids and I'm getting older. But no, like you don't have to be peeing in your pants. like there's solutions, and you don't have to be okay with that. You don't have to live with it. Like, there's things we can do. So, and so that's why I think, and I'm just using that one because actually that one comes up a lot in my coaching with my clients. And so I just realized, I'm like, I've got the means to do this. And it was my ADHD, and because I was going through it, I'm such a researcher. So I already had the training that I had, which touched a little bit about it, but then my own experiences made me go, I need to know everything. And so I've just been on this journey of research. Yeah, I was like, give it all to me. And so I've been talking with doctors and specialists. I've been reading, and from female doctors in the US, Canada, the US, Australia, and the UK. So I'm trying to get like all the information.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was very apparent that you have a lot of information yesterday at your workshop.
Yeah, I might need to figure out how to pare that down a little.
1/5 of the slides.
I know.
which was fine, and I was, like, literally giggling the whole time because, like, when you were frantically building the last slides, when I was building the nutrition slides, I was like, "This isn't happening. We're not gonna get here."
Oh, and I knew it. I said to you, I was like, we can't do this. We can't get through it. What are we gonna do? I'm like,
It was
well,
good because now we have basically 3 workshops in
yeah,
one slide deck. Now
yeah,
we just have to, like, chunk it out. So,
yeah.
for those of you who are wanting to get around more women who are, asking questions in a safe space and who are learning from Chris because she is really, obviously, gathering all the information, come to the free workshop on November 28th. You can sign up for it at alittlebitbetter.ca. All right. So we're not going to talk about women's health. If women want to know about that, they can come to your workshop. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that you are very knowledgeable about perimenopause and women's health, 40 plus, maybe even like, late 30s.
Mhm.
What business building tip or trick would you like to share with fempreneurs?
Oh, okay. I could just tell you what I think for me, because I actually, although I talk a lot, I'm actually an introvert. And so I have always shied away from networking. And just because I was feeling shy or just didn't know how to do it. And I would say it's 100% the thing you have to do. You have to just get out there and start talking to people, because you never know who can help you. And like, you can talk to somebody who might not be a direct person that you collaborate with or that becomes a client or helps you, but they know somebody who knows somebody who can. And I mean, this is how I found Lindsay, right? That's how I found you. So I think that would be my number one thing, is you just have to put yourself out there. And I mean, you don't have to be crazy and like trying to have 100 conversations at an event. Like I've done a couple different kind, and I found the kind I like are the smaller ones. And, maybe I have conversations with 3 to 5 women, maybe not even 5, probably 3. But then I make some really good, solid connections that way. And we just try to keep in touch. And I've found that invaluable.
That's an awesome tip. I love that. That's really
Mm.
great. It's really, really great. Okay, so business building tip is to get out there and network. Is this your first ever live video, by the way?
Yes, it is.
I love it.
Me too.
So also, I guess to kind of back up Chris's tip, I can vouch for the fact that these live videos work so well for connecting you with more people that need to know about you. So if you're someone who's shied away from live video, don't be scared. Hop on Instagram Live with a complimentary business owner. The fempreneur community is a great place to meet other women who want to get out there on Instagram Live, and it's way better to have a chat like Chris and I are doing right now than to just hop on an Instagram Live by yourself, which you did the other day though, which was highly effective. I
It's
think we
true.
got like 9 signups for your event that day.
I know, it's true. That's true. So I've done that kind of live. I've just never done this kind of live.
Right, where you're like getting asked questions and you're like, that
Yeah.
wasn't on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I want to
Yeah.
let you get back to your busy day. I know you have a lot on the go. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your business story with us and some tips and tricks. And yeah, everyone needs to go and find Chris on Instagram at chris.swail. And she does have a YouTube channel. She's on LinkedIn. She has a Facebook page, but you mostly hang out on Instagram and LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, to be fair, I don't really do technology very well. I'm learning, and so I'm trying to build up those channels you mentioned. I'm predominantly though on Instagram, but I
Right.
am going to be working on the other channels.
Yes, and I'm trying to help your YouTube channel grow by mentioning you, because you do have a couple of great videos that maybe by the time people are listening to this will be on YouTube, and
Yeah.
those are really awesome videos. So I want people to go and check those out and subscribe, because yeah, it's just the beginning for Chris on YouTube.
Yeah.
Beginning of many, many fun things.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day, Chris, and have a great
you.
day, everyone else. Thanks for tuning in. You can learn more about me and my Fem Authors group and my new book at yycfempreneurs.com. All right, bye, everybody.